What happens when America's most beloved Family Feud host walks into one of the most unpredictable talk shows on television, only to face off with one of the most outspoken co-hosts in daytime history? What you're about to see is the unforgettable moment when Steve Harvey's guest appearance on The View spiraled from friendly laughs into a full-on verbal showdown that left producers panicking, the audience stunned, and a comedy legend walking off the set. Before we dive into the chaos, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me which talk show host you think could handle a heated debate best, because after what Joy Behar pulled on Steve Harvey, you'll definitely have opinions. It was meant to be a simple, cheerful interview. Steve, riding high from his multiple hit shows, had agreed to visit The View to promote his new relationship book and upcoming comedy special. That morning at the ABC studios in New York felt like any other. Steve arrived early, flashing his signature smile, cracking jokes with makeup artists and charming everyone behind the scenes. The producers had one goal: keep things light and upbeat. Steve would talk about his projects, tell a few funny stories, and maybe drop some of his famous relationship advice. But what no one knew was that Joy Behar seemed to have woken up ready for a fight. As Steve adjusted his sharp suit and sat in the guest chair, the studio's energy buzzed with excitement. Whoopi Goldberg, serving as moderator, wrapped up the intro segment before turning to the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the king of family television himself, Steve Harvey. The crowd erupted in applause as Steve walked on stage, shaking hands and hugging the co-hosts, saving Joy for last. Even in that brief greeting, there was tension. Something about Joy's body language felt off, but Steve brushed it aside, figuring she was just having a rough morning. "Steve Harvey, welcome back to The View." Whoopi began. "You've got so much going on. The book, the comedy special, Family Feud dominating the ratings. How do you manage it all?" Steve leaned back, that easy charm on full display. "Well, Whoopi, I've been blessed. When you love what you do, it never feels like work. Whether I'm helping families win on Family Feud or trying to help people figure out love, it's all about connection and hopefully giving them a laugh along the way." The conversation flowed perfectly at first. Steve shared hilarious behind-the-scenes stories, teased his comedy tour, and dropped his trademark relationship tips. The audience was loving it, clapping, laughing, completely engaged. Everything was smooth sailing, until Joy Behar decided to take the wheel. "Steve," she interrupted, her tone suddenly sharp, "you've made a career out of giving relationship advice. But you've been married 3 times yourself. Don't you think that's a little hypocritical?" The entire studio went silent. Steve's smile froze for a moment before he caught himself, but the mood had shifted, and everyone could feel it. "Well, Joy," he replied with a calm but firm tone, "I actually think my experiences, good and bad, make me more qualified to help people. I've learned lessons the hard way, and that's exactly what makes my advice real. I'm not perfect, just experienced." Joy wasn't done. "Sure, but isn't it convenient to profit off relationship advice when your own love life has been, let's say, complicated? 3 marriages isn't exactly relationship expert material, is it?" The other co-hosts looked uncomfortable. No one had expected this turn. Steve's jaw tightened slightly, but his professionalism held strong. "Joy, you're missing the point," he said, steady but direct. "I don't hide from my past. I use it to help others. I've lived through the ups and downs of love and marriage. That's what gives my words weight," Joy smirked. "Or maybe it makes you more of a cautionary tale than a teacher, Steve. If I wanted relationship advice, I'd go to someone who got it right the first time." The crowd stirred uneasily. This was supposed to be light entertainment, not a verbal duel. Steve took a breath, leaning forward. "Joy, what you're doing right now is exactly what breaks people down. Using someone's honesty as a weapon. That's not journalism. That's just mean." The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Joy's eyes gleamed with satisfaction. She knew she'd gotten under his skin. But instead of backing off, she doubled down. "Mean." "No, Steve, I'm asking the tough questions. You put yourself out there as a love expert, writing books, giving advice. It's fair to ask if people should take you seriously." Steve's calm was beginning to crack. "My qualifications are my life, the good, the bad, all of it. What I'm hearing from you isn't curiosity, Joy. It's someone enjoying tearing others down." Oh, please, Joy scoffed. Don't make me the villain just because I'm not feeding your PR narrative. Whoopi, sensing disaster, tried to interject. Maybe we can talk about the comedy special. But Joy cut her off. No, Whoopi. This matters. People deserve to know if the man selling advice has lived by his own words. Steve's patience was gone. You want to talk about qualifications? Fine. How many relationships have you had, Joy? How often do you give advice to friends? If experience disqualifies me, maybe we should start with you. Joy snapped back. This isn't about me. Steve, I'm not the one selling relationship wisdom to millions. No, Steve said, his voice firm. You're just trying to tear down someone else's success on national TV. Why, Joy? What are you trying to prove? The tension in the studio was electric. You could feel the discomfort in the audience as Joy leaned closer, her tone growing sharper by the second. What I'm trying to do, she said coldly, is ask the kind of real questions that too many people avoid. Everyone wants to flatter celebrities. I'd rather get honest answers. Steve exhaled slowly, his composure hanging by a thread. Honest journalism, huh? He replied, his voice edged with disbelief. That's what you call this? Because to me it looks a lot like bitterness wrapped up as an interview. The word bitterness landed like a grenade. Joy's expression hardened instantly. Did you just call me bitter? She asked, her voice dangerously quiet. Steve hesitated only a second before doubling down. If the shoe fits, Joy. You've been attacking me since the moment this conversation started. What's this really about? My marriages or something else? Joy's restraint finally broke. You want to know what this is about, Steve? It's about people like you profiting off women's insecurities, writing books that tell women how to think, how to act, how to land a man. You build a brand on outdated ideas and call it wisdom. Steve's temper finally cracked. Now hold on just a minute, he said sharply. Don't twist what I do. I've dedicated my career to helping people, to giving families hope and laughter. What I do comes from love, not manipulation. You can call it whatever you want, but don't you dare call me a fraud. Joy let out a bitter laugh. A fraud. Steve, you sell fairy tales dressed up as advice. You're no different from a salesman with a microphone. The audience gasped. The entire room was divided, some cheering for Steve, others backing Joy. Producers off camera were waving frantically, but the exchange had gone too far to stop. Steve stood from his chair, his height and presence commanding the space. You know what, Joy? You can question my words, but don't question my heart. I've worked hard for everything I have, and I've tried to lift people up, something you clearly don't know how to do. Joy shot back, rising too. And I've worked hard to call out people like you who use charm to hide hypocrisy. I'm not afraid to tell the truth. Whoopi tried again to step in, her voice strained. It's all right, let's all take a breath. But Joy wasn't done. You want truth. Let's talk about how you treat your staff, Steve. Let's talk about what really goes on behind the scenes of your shows. You preach respect on camera. Do you live it off camera? That hit like a thunderclap. Steve froze, his face turning red with anger. What did you just say? He demanded. You heard me, Joy said icily. Maybe your audience deserves to know the real Steve Harvey, not just the polished TV version. The studio fell silent. No one moved. The air was thick with shock. Steve's voice, when he spoke again, was low but shaking with fury. Joy, I don't know what game you're playing, but you better watch what accusations you're throwing around. Question my past all you want, but don't spread lies about how I treat people. That's crossing a line, Joy sneered. Lies, please. You've built your whole image on pretending to be the perfect family man, the relationship expert, the moral guide. It's a performance. For a brief second, something flickered in Joy's face. Hesitation, maybe even guilt. But it was gone in an instant. You didn't do anything to me, she said coldly. But you represent something that I think is dangerous. This idea that fame makes you an expert, that charisma equals credibility. Steve fired right back. And you represent what's wrong with this culture. Tearing people down instead of lifting them up. Acting like being cynical makes you smart. That's unbelievable. I'm not a victim, Joy snapped. I'm pointing out that the man who writes books about how men should treat women is shouting at one, right now in front of millions.